Sorry for a second clip. I just got booted out of my recording software, which shows you how much I know about making videos. But I was using Screencastify through Google, which only allows 30 minutes, and my loud mouth couldn't shut up and stop talking. So I went over 30 minutes, so it just booted me out. So I'm just going to make a quick video with the last few, and I'm too lazy to splice them together. So if anyone knows any good software that's free that can record videos and doesn't suck, please let me know. But anyways, let's finish out the last few cases. So again, take a look at this case, pause it if you need to, and think about where it's at or what the diagnosis is. And this is challenging. I don't expect anyone to know exactly what this is, but I want you to have some ideas. You might look at this and be like, well, maybe it's Darier's disease. It's central. It's pink and kind of keratotic. Maybe it's pemphigus foliaceus. It's got that cornflake like scale. Maybe this is just like something like terra firma dermatosis. Maybe it's just a lot of scale from, not washing. Although, of course, all these primary lesions down here make that unlikely. But how do you put this somewhere? How do you put this in a bucket? So this is clearly epidermal, right? There's a ton of scale. Now, I would argue that this is a difficult case to put into a sub bucket epidermally, but I think you can do it. So papillosquamous, I don't think so. I mean, technically, yes, it's raised and it's scaly, but when we think about papillosquamous, we think about raised scaly things that are well demarcated, like psoriasis, lichen planus, CTCL, tinea corporis, etc. So I would argue that this is probably put in a slightly different bucket. Examinus, no, it's not microvesicular, it's not tiny papules, not a lot of sponge derm kind of jumping out to our eyes. Vesiculobullous, yes, I actually do think this is vesiculobullous, and someone might be like, well, how the hell can you say that? There's no blisters. Well, note that with vesiculobullous, especially in superficially blistering diseases like pemphigus foliaceus, etc., you often will not even see the blisters. The blisters will denude. You'll get the secondary crusting and scale. And so that's what this actually ended up being. And this is pemphigus foliaceus. So that's a blistering disease. Do you see a blister? No, there's no blistering here anymore, right? So superficial, they all kind of sloughed off, and now you have this superficial scale. So I think if you get into that right bucket of epidermal, vesiculobullous, superficial vesiculobullous, you're right there, right? There's only so many things that could be. All right, next case. Take a second if you need it. I'm presenting this one because this is a unique bucket of pustular dermatoses. So, it's you can be hard pressed to put this into a proper bucket, right? Is this epidermal? Sure, there's newts, right? There's going to be newts inside the epidermis. Is this dermal? Sure, there's newts. So it's hard to say. So I would say and argue that for pustular eruptions, you should treat them completely separately. I would argue also for pustular eruptions that you should treat them based on where they are. So regional dermatoses are extremely important. So say you have a pustular eruption with erythema in the bilateral armpits and groin, you think about AGEP. You can think about pustular psoriasis. If you have a pustular eruption like this on the face, there's really only so many things that could do this. I mean, I would think about rosacea, Demodex folliculitis, acneiform eruption, maybe to EGFR inhibitors, ALEP, acute localized exanthematous pustulosis, and then maybe an acneiform eruption due to over moisturization. It's really, in my opinion, all it could be. Maybe there's some other things out there people can think of, but it's not that many things that you can get to. So I think for pustular dermatoses, I encourage you to use a regional location to render your diagnosis, and this was Demodex folliculitis. Last case, take a second here. And I'm including this case because it shows that a lot of the rules that we put into place, dermatoses and skin diseases, don't rigidly follow them. So you might look at this and be like, this is dermatofibroma, and you would be right, this is dermatofibroma. But how do you categorize a dermatofibroma? I mean, there's no epidermal change, right? There's no scale, crust, blistering, pigment change, anything. So it's dermal. But is it inflammatory, neoplastic, or depositional? I mean, I think a lot of people would argue that it's neoplastic. You have an expansion of the dermis, but then a lot of people might say it's actually inflammatory. You're seeing a reddish brown color here. There's clearly histiocytes. We know that there's histiocytes. So some people might say that that this is an inflammatory condition. I think it's probably both, and that's my point here. I think there's going to be different scenarios that you're going to look at. Your eyes are going to pick up on colors, pick up on textures, where you're going to put it in more than one bucket, and that's okay. This is reddish brown, so there's inflammation. There's inflammatory cells like histiocytes, but it's fixed. You'll push it, it's firm, so it's neoplastic. So this is probably a dermal inflammatory / neoplastic, growth, and I think that's if you can get there from looking at it, you know you're going to get there histologically and you're going to get to the right diagnosis, because that's exactly what a dermatofibroma is. Okay, so that's it for the first lecture. I'm really open to feedback, so drop any comments on the video or feel free to email me. You just might Google my name. It's my first, not my last name, at ocumc.edu. Again, don't be overwhelmed by the reaction patterns. Go through this video, write them down. You'll get there over time, and when you do, you'll feel so much better at being able to generate differential diagnoses, getting to where you need to be to make the right diagnosis, and you'll never be intimidated by anything again. I mean, that was my worst feeling, looking at something and literally not being able to propose anything, because I'm like, I have no idea what the hell this is. Well, you'll be able to now. You should never have a scenario where you say nothing now. You just go and put it in the right reaction pattern, and then just use something like Visual DX or Google. Once you're in that reaction pattern, run through the diagnoses and see, does anything make sense? Like, oh, that does kind of look like that. Or, you know what, that doesn't really make sense. And you'll get there. Future video plans are going to be more content-based, going through different reaction patterns like retiform purpura ulcers, or just a bunch of slides that we can roll through. Thank you.